Let's go. It's Coach Frank here with game review number 113. Game review number 113. We're taking another look at one of the Atomic Juds games, and this time, um, I think we have a pretty good game here. Both players are again jumping in the center of the board. Activate your pieces. Be safe with your king. Centralize your pieces, and they are doing that from the queen side this time. And that's the thing. It can be done from the king side or the queen side. It doesn't matter. White is choosing to develop his queen side before his king side. So arguably, he should be thinking about going to that side of the board. If he's going to go to that side of the board, he has to be aware of quick attacking chances from black because there's more pieces to move on that side of the board. So let's take a look. Black played a natural move, knight f6, and then white played b3. Now the bishop already had opportunities to get out, but he is choosing to fianchetto his bishop instead of just naturally developing it along the longer diagonal with the more amount of squares. So this idea is kind of contradictory to the position. So I'm not so sure, what White's aim is. I am not so sure what White's aim is, but we're going to continue anyway and take a look. Black just develops his knights naturally. He's going to probably put his bishop here or something like that. Let's see how it goes. E3. So maybe that is why White wanted to fianchetto his bishop. But again, we saw this in some other games where the players were basically trapping their own pieces in. And this is what White has chosen to do in this game. And unfortunately, I think this move, e5, is a little early because we want to avoid attacking our opponent before we get our king safe. So that's the thing. Avoid attacking your opponent before you get your king safe. And that's what this move kind of does. And simultaneously, it could potentially allow for this bad bishop to become good again because those dark squares are being loosened up with the help of black. So this pin is good. I like the idea of pinning this piece, and there's an opportunity for us to put pressure on the pinned piece. We talked about that before. Put pressure on the pinned piece. That's a thing. Put pressure on the pinned piece. And that is a thing. That's one of our principles that we definitely want to remember. So let's continue. Capture. Feeling a little early for that, but okay. Now he puts pressure on the pin piece. White pins a piece himself, counter pin. And black just gets out of the pin by simply castling, and I think that's a good move. So now white is in a world of trouble. And for those who can't see it, this knight is only defended one time and it is attacked twice. That's a problem. And he did not realize it. So not only that, we're taking a piece, hitting the queen, and the piece is free, also forking the bishop. Capture, capture, and another fork is occurring. And that's material. That's major material. He could actually snap a pawn first and then go get the rook, but he chose to get the rook first. And now I guess white is arguing that he's going to try to keep this bishop in here. I'm guessing that's what he's declaring. But and this is another strange move. I guess black was determined to move his bishop, and he chose to move it one square. But one of the things that we want to think about is counting the squares where the pieces can go. And right now, this bishop really belongs on this diagonal or on this diagonal because it has the most amount of squares on those diagonals. So you say the bishop can't go to either one of those locations. Well, it can with a little help. So let's look at it one at a time. If we were to push this pawn, then naturally the bishop would be able to go there because it would have the support of the pawn and it kicks the queen out. However, that move would break one of our earlier principles, which is to avoid pushing pawns in front of the king. And because that's more important than chasing a queen, that plan is probably not the one we want to go with. So let's look at the other side of the board. How can we get this bishop here with some protection? And the answer is by simply playing a5 first. a5 followed by bishop a6 allows us to put long-term pressure on this diagonal, and that's the thing. That's probably something that black should have considered in his position rather than calmly moving his bishop one square, giving it no additional scope on any diagonal. In fact, it might have picked up one square, and that's the e8 square. So I'm not terribly excited about that move, but okay, he's already winning, so I guess he can't do too much wrong, but we would consider this move an inaccuracy. So here we go. White is trying to trap this bishop down there, and he's probably going to really start to get groovy in a second. I still favor the idea of this bishop being on the a6 square. So the rook comes over. Rooks belong on open files. That's a thing. Rooks do belong on open files, and I guess I should make a note for those who might be looking at these videos for the first time. Rooks belong on open files. That's where they're most strong. Okay, rooks belong on open files, and in this case I have already drawn an arrow, but just for those who might not know, this is the file in question. It is called the E file, and in particular, getting the rook to the second or the seventh is a double bonus. So not only do you want to get your rooks on open files, but you also want to see if you can't penetrate to the second or the seventh rank without your rook being captured. Those are goals. So he goes after the bishop, failing to realize that the bishop can just take the pawn since it's no longer protected. And that's exactly what happens. This guy, I don't know if he's having some miscues on the squares. He's not in check, but he just randomly moves his king. Black continues to eat pawns, so now he's just taking 2 pawns for nothing. It's got a lovely looking bishop, putting the king in a box. And let's talk about that. The king is in a box. He can't go here, 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 he can't go here. So there's the box. The king can only go to 1 square. And right away, for those who are paying attention, once the king is in the box, you should really start trying to calculate what checkmate looks like. In this case, checkmate is starting to smell like queen g5. Queen g5 is checkmate in this position. However, it's white's move. White chose to move this knight here. That does not stop checkmate. That does not stop checkmate. And let me just look again to make sure that's true. Yeah, that's checkmate. That's a checkmate just plain and day. But black chose to capture the free piece, and this is a little reactionary. We see this a lot with some of the lower rated players where they play reactionary chess. Somebody does something and they immediately make a move in the area of where their opponent just moved. So, yes, every move a weakness is created, and you should be looking at that. But in this case, the king was already in a box. The checkmate was imminent. All we had to do was find the square to check him. That does not involve moving a piece that would be allowing the king to get out. And in this case, that would have been the queen. So we missed that checkmate, but that's okay. We capture, and then the guy gives us his queen. We could still ignore the queen and go for checkmate. That, in my opinion, would have been the move, and in fact, it was the move. So kudos to Atomic Judd for seeing the checkmate a little bit later, 1 move later, I believe, but he did see it, and that is awesome. I think it's extra pretty to leave that queen on the board and checkmate him. So it just kind of adds an extra nice touch to see Your Highness, under attack on pre, and the King also under attack at the same time. That's an extra little something. So thank you. This has been Coach Frank with another game review. I believe this is number 113. Please take a look at our stream, twitch.tv / chess coach, and follow us on Twitter at Real Chess Coach.
Yeah, true story. You dealing with the best in chess. Fish gang, where you at? Time to represent. Coach, show them how we run it. It's time to do it big. Let the world stream live. You can find him on Twitch. Right from the opening until he holla checkmate. Coach keep it entertaining, yeah, all day. Some people donate, some try to hate. Tell him don't hide. Check him online, chess.com. Yeah, that's where it goes down. He don't see no competition every time he look around. People yelling true story, sounding like Coach. If you ready,